Canvas, but I shall. And who's going to remind me? Caitlin?
Yes.
Thanks for sharing. Okay, good deal. All right. So let's talk about the scientific method, and we're going to start with the basics. So how would you define science?
The study of things unknown.
The study of things unknown. Okay. Yes?
Study of all that is natural.
The study that is all that is natural. Okay. So you guys are discluding known things and unnatural things. Okay. Okay.
An explanation for questions?
A way to answer questions. Okay. All right. I think there's some good elements of truth in all of those answers. Do these look useful, similar? A process, a way of thinking about problems and a method for solving them, very similar to Adrian's there. A method of seeking truth, I think, similar to the others. What do you think? You want to argue with me? Do you think that art, religion, and philosophy are also methods that some people employ to seek truth? Would you agree with that or not? Would anybody like to disagree? I'd love for you to disagree. That'd be fun.
I disagree.
Oh, good. Okay, why? Why? Which one?
You said you wanted someone to
Oh, well, okay. All right. Yeah, so, we all, go ahead, Lily.
I was just going to say, because a lot of things I don't agree with, but I agree that it is a method of seeking truth, because even in science, a lot of our stuff is based on theories anyways, and we haven't completely proven a lot of things true either, so I think those things can be methods of finding truth as well.
Okay. You just used several phrases that complement some slides that I have coming up, and as well as at least one that contradicts a slide that I have coming up. Good though, good points. Science is limited to the study of the physical universe, the natural world. You said natural things that we can identify with our five senses. So it doesn't deal with things that we can't see or sense or feel, the things that we don't know are there, right? And art, religion, and philosophy might, right? So science, we might argue, is kind of limited in what it can address. If we can't sense it, we don't use science to address it. Okay, so it comes from, as you know, several centuries ago, the Greeks and Romans, early scientists started exploring ways to seek truth, and this was during an age when we were coming up with ideas of Greek mythology and why does the world do this? Why does the sun go down? And we came up with these concepts of people, Atlas carrying the world on his shoulders, and Zeus and Apollo, and these gods and goddesses that explain the phenomena that we see in nature based on just pulling stuff out of thin air, right? And the people who were exploring, the early explorers of science, were saying, you can't do that. You can't just make something up based on no evidence, no experience whatsoever. So a lot was happening around the 17th century. Right before that, Copernicus used evidence to overthrow Galileo's model of the solar system, and in which everything went around the Earth. He said, no, the Earth is going around the sun, based on observations that he was able to record and see. Think about that. In 1543, that was quite some time ago. People were coming up with some extraordinarily elegant and sophisticated analyses. Other key figures, well, this goes way back before Christ. Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, suggested that empiricism should be used to seek truth. The idea that knowledge should come from what we can experience, what we can feel, what we can see and sense, and not just, we shouldn't take anything as on faith just because somebody said it's the case, right? Much later, 1620, Bacon proposed induction as a good thing, an alternative to Aristotle's method in his work New Organ. In induction, the premises of an argument are believed to support the conclusion, but do not ensure it. And this became the precursor to the scientific method we had today. So So, I see this happening, so it stands to reason that this would happen in a broader context, that we would see this happening. But I'm not sure. We have to do some sort of test to find out if that's in case the fact. Okay, that's induction, and I'll talk more about that in a second. René Descartes, otherwise known as, anybody want to help me with that besides Ruba?
Rene Descartes.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. René Descartes said, if you want to understand something that's complex, you break it down into all its individual parts. How many of you, when you were a kid, took apart something like, say, your parents' alarm clock to try to understand how it worked? Anybody? Did you break it trying to put it back together?
Yeah.
Yes, so did I. Yeah, right. But it kind of made more sense. Okay, it's got gears in there that you couldn't see. It's got springs. It's got levers. It's got circuits. And it made more sense when you could understand how everything was connected to everything. And that's a lot of the time what we're doing in science. We're breaking stuff down to its most basic parts, and we call that process reductionism, reducing it down. And there's value in doing that, right? So, our modern scientific method involves both induction and deduction. So we call it a hypothetico-deductive process. The hypothetico refers to the induction. So there's two parts. Induction is reasoning in which known facts do not ensure that your conclusion is true. So we use particular knowledge to make general speculations. Way back to that early scientific thinking. Induction. We see this happening, so it stands to reason that maybe this would happen at a broader level. I'm going to hypothesize that because I see this, I'll also see this. Okay? That's the first half. Hypothesis formation or induction. Okay? The second half is hypothesis testing or deduction or inference. Reasoning in which the conclusion is reached by known facts. I test my hypothesis. I see this. I think maybe this is the case. I test it. Is this the case? Yes, it is. I deduce that it is, and I find that yes, it is, or oh, no, it's not. I was wrong. Bad hypothesis. I'm going to try another one. There, that's science. Should we just stop right there? We've just described it. I mean, we could. Yeah. Now we'll keep going. How we doing? Everybody good? You knew this, right? You knew all this. They taught you this, I think, in late grade school. Yeah? I'm getting nothing. I'm getting no. Grubau's nodding. The rest of the class is like, yeah, no, never seen, never, no. Okay, good. Right. So, the basic scientific method today. Observe nature. That's the fun part, right? We're telling you, Dr. Grubau and I are telling you, go outside, look at animals, watch what they're doing. Why do dippers dip? Why do they do? Why is that? What's going on? What the heck? What the heck is that bird doing? I didn't think that deer were carnivores. Why is it eating meat? I didn't think that. Why are all these things happening? Right? That's fun. That's why many of you got into wildlife and geosciences and natural resources. I hope because the natural world is fascinating, and you want to understand it, and to understand it better. This is our language to do it. Observe it. What's going on? Well, maybe we're seeing this happen because of this, or because of this, or because of this. We come up with potential answers. And for each of those potential answers, we carry out an experiment. See, is this happening because of that? No, that's not. How about because of this? No. How about because of, yeah, this worked. Maybe in the world, dippers dip because of this reason. Okay, here's an important point. You've heard it before, but people get it wrong all the time. And usually the people that get it wrong are not scientists. Sometimes people that get it wrong claim to be scientists, but science doesn't prove stuff. It either disproves stuff or it lends evidence to a hypothesis. It increases our inference, the likelihood that something is true. Okay? We are pretty doggone sure that the earth is round and goes around the sun. That is a theory. It's a very strongly held theory, you know. But maybe this is all just a dream. and there's no earth, and there's no sun, and ain't nothing going around anything, all right? And we don't really have a good way yet to prove that, okay? So broad hypotheses are sets of hypotheses that are supported consistently, time and again, under varying conditions by different people in different places with repeated experiments that increases the inference, the likelihood that this theory is true, and the theory becomes eventually so widely accepted that we consider it, we call it kind of fact, you know? Yeah, we would say, we kind of generally say that, yeah, the earth is round. It goes around the sun. But a real scientist, deep down, we're kind of squeamish because we don't really accept fact in science. We always hold open that there might be some other explanation. Okay? Good? So when somebody says, it's scientific fact that climate change is responsible for the fires in the western United States, you should have alarm bells going off. Okay? It's not scientific fact. I believe that climate warming might be exacerbating fires in the West, but decades and decades of fire suppression and maybe some just droughts that we might have automatically are a big part of that as well. Oh, that's weird. There's maybe a little bit of an irony that people look to scientists to provide answers to questions, and if they're asking really hard questions, probably the most frequent answer that a scientist should be giving, we're often loath to give. What's the answer?
I don't know.
Yeah. Most of the time, if we're really out there at the edge of what we know, our answer is, I don't know. And that makes a lot of people in the general public say, you can't trust those scientists, they don't know anything. We know more than most on this subject. But yeah, humans don't know a lot when we're out there at the edge of our knowledge. Okay, here's a couple thoughts. We can only accept a hypothesis as theory insofar as we accept the theories upon which it is founded. Who here is from South Central Tennessee? Down around Lawrenceburg or somewhere where you're from?
Giles County.
Okay, Giles County. So down around Giles County, past several years they've been saying turkey numbers are down. TWRA has given some money to UT Knoxville to study why turkey numbers are down. Is it because of disease? Is it because of predation? Is it because of, you know what? They don't even know if turkey numbers are down. Hunting numbers went down a little bit. There's a correlation. There might be a correlation, you know, between that. But does lower hunting success mean fewer turkeys? We don't know that. So they're doing studies based on a hypothesis that hasn't been supported. We don't know if it's true or not. There's a fair chance that there's fewer turkeys. But that's a risky study to do because they're looking for reasons that the numbers are down and they might not be down. Right? So we have to be real careful to base our science on a strong foundation. Yeah.
I actually helped out with that study.
Cool.
I
Very good.
volunteered with it.
Very good. Yeah.
One thing that we really did, we drew blood,
Mhm.
and we caught a bunch of the turkeys. We drew blood and put transmitters on them, but I haven't heard on what the outcome of it was. I just helped with that.
They did a few things. One of the things they looked at was they did several things. One of the things they looked at was poultry litter to determine if it was spreading diseases to turkeys, and they found a low incidence of one disease, and they didn't think it was enough to cause significant issues. I just use that as an example of how we have to be careful about basing theories on things that we consider fact that might not be, right? And this is something that I like to say, and I think most people, I don't know. Tell me if you agree with this or if this is useful to you. I think of scientific methods when we come up with questions. I said a couple of days ago that coming up with a good question, that's the first part of the scientific method, and it's not science, it's art, coming up with a good question. I think a good question should be useful. The answer to it should help us, should give us knowledge that's useful to us, right? And the bigger the question, the more useful it is, right? But I also think that a question needs to be answerable, because if it's so complex that we can't come up with a hypothesis to test it, come up with the answer, then And yeah, that would be great if we could figure out how to test it, but it's too complex. We don't know how to test it. So you got to find that sweet spot between something that's useful and something that's simple enough to be answerable. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, all right. I think that's an important thing. And a good question might be simple, but sometimes it's kind of elegant in its simplicity. Okay, so imagine this. Imagine that you've got a friend who has a business in town and they make and sell baseball caps, okay? All right. And they're wondering, I wonder if there's a lot of natural resource students, natural resource and geoscience students, meteorology students who would buy baseball caps if we made UT Martin natural science stuff on them. And so, we might work with that guy to answer the question, what % of the class is wearing caps? Okay, answer that question for me, would you? I'll give you a few minutes. See how fast you can do it. Whoever comes up with the answer, raise your hand.
I want to say somewhere around 6%.
Is the answer 4 divided by 26? Is that where you get the answer?
Well, because I see one. You said hats. I see 1, 2, 3.
We're messing with it now. Okay, all right. Oh, hang on. Just leave them on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 divided by 26. Is that right?
23%.
23%. It went up dramatically. Okay. What's 4 divided by 26? Somebody with a calculator? Huh? So when there was 4, it was 15% of the class. When there's 6, it was 26%, something like that. Okay. All right. So, you know what? We answered that in just a few seconds, didn't we? We struggled, but we got it. All right. We answered that in just a few seconds. That was a highly answerable question. So we could go to our buddy the hat maker and say, 26%, dude. And that's not very useful to him, is it? It's answerable, but it's not very useful. What about this? What if he said, well, I just need to know what % of you guys wear hats, right? What % of natural resource students wear hats? And how would you design that study? Because when? Ever? During the summer? Natural resource students at UT Martin or anywhere? Natural resource students this year? Natural resource students that are enrolled, in this class or in any what? It's too broad. There's too many undefined factors, right? So that would be useful, but it's not answerable. It's too vague. So we've got to come up with a question that's big enough to be useful, but specific enough to be answerable. And that's what you're going to have to do for your studies, okay? So how about this? You and your hat maker get together and drink a couple beers and go, all right. How about what % of natural resource management students at UT Martin wore caps to class at least once during the first week of classes, fall term 3. Yeah, did that last year. It'd take a little bit of work, but if I were working at it, I bet I could figure that out. Yeah, if I got with Dr. Smart and Dr. Grubaugh and said, okay, you guys, check your classes, that first week, and give me those numbers at the end of it. We could get that, couldn't we? And if we took that information to the hat maker, he's like, okay, all right. So, if I made, looks like based on this, maybe if I made 100 hats, I'd have a decent chance of selling, selling them all, maybe, So that's useful. Does that make sense, guys? Finding that sweet spot between useful and answerable. There it is again, the scientific method. Observe nature, that's the fun part. Generate questions. What the heck is going on? Why is that? Why? Review the literature. That comes next. And guys, some people generate questions. A lot of their questions either come from or get modified when they're reviewing the literature. Why do I don't know. Why do kingfishers always sit on, or why do they fly like this? There we go. Why do they go up and down when they fly? and you go to the literature and look at flight patterns for birds or kingfishers, and maybe it leads you to some other information that leads you to think about other questions. So you might be doing that. You might be thinking, okay, I'm interested in this species, or I'm interested in this thing I saw, or this habitat, and I go to the literature to try exploring and learning more about it. And you find a couple articles that at the end say, we figured this out, but future research needs to look at this. Oh, future research? That could be me, right? So nature helps us generate questions. What people have already done help us refine and generate more questions. So we come up with hypotheses to answer our questions. We design an experiment to test. We do it. We collect the data. That's the fun field work. Okay, hopefully fun, unless it's 96 degrees with a 109 heat index. Interpret results, statistically analyze. This is the term we use, and Grubai will say it to you again and again. We either reject the hypothesis or we fail to reject the hypothesis. We do not say we accept the hypothesis, because that means we're proving it, and we don't prove stuff, right? We support it. We fail to reject it. And then we report our results in multimedia, that is to say, in paper and in the spoken word, right? Orally and in writing. Okay. All right. So here's what I'd like you to do with somebody at your table, and if you're at a table by yourself, just find somebody else and join them, and it can be 2 or 3 of you. I want you to brainstorm at least 1 and up to 3, and 1 is fine if that's all you get. Answerable, useful, wildlife-related questions. Wildlife or habitat or nature-related questions. I know that's kind of broad, but a simple question that you might come up with a hypothesis for and answer and test. We'll talk about our hypothesis part of that. Take a few minutes.
What do fish eat? Do we want to narrow it down to the idea you gave earlier, like what bait works best or what particular fish?
Instead of saying like what fish eat, I said what bait works best for trout.
Yes. Okay. What bait works best for trout?
That is useful, but it's not quite answerable. So you can bring it further and say what bait works best for trout during summer versus springtime. Because the temperature rate of the water changes when they want to eat.
I feel like it's answerable just based on the percentage of trout you catch using one bait versus another.
Could be. I was also trying to make it a little bit more specific, because if it's too hot or too cold, the fish won't eat the bait, so wouldn't quite be as answerable. So you could say what type of bait would be best during summer versus fall.
Okay. Okay, yeah. So 2 different seasons, preferable to like 2 different types of bait, which works fine because I don't know what any of the baits are. I want to think of something habitat related, like what kind maybe like what kinds of structures or trees do raptors do like raptors or like how about what kinds of trees do both of them prefer to roost in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's got at least 1? Who does not yet have at least 1? Okay, keep on thinking. All right. Carry on.
Say for nesting purposes, or just to
roosting, because that's one of their behaviors is roosting.
Right, I just want to make sure if it's necessarily for like nesting, like during mating season, or if it's just about trying to find prey, or carcass, I should say.
No, I think just for zero because I don't think the tree type like will matter whether they're mating or not or anything like that. I think like the type of tree matters for what they want to sit and rest on. You know, like something with like broader, more spread out branches, like less dense canopy and stuff like that. And a third one.
Okay. Who does not have at least one? Everybody's got at least one. I won't ask every group to share. You're going to come back to this in, at least once here today. But I'd like for 2 or 3 groups to share one of your questions with us. Who's willing to share a question? Yeah.
Which one do you want to do? Yours. Okay. What kind of trees do vultures prefer to roost in?
Oh, okay. What kind of trees do vultures prefer to roost in? Very good. Thank you very much. Good. Interesting. Excellent. Okay. What's another one? Yes.
Why do turkeys roost in trees at night?
Why do turkeys roost in trees at night? Okay. Good. All right. Another? One more. Yeah, Joe.
Why are frogs more active after it rains?
Why are frogs more active after it rains? Good. That's also, I think, the best time to find box turtles crossing the road, the next morning after a rain. Yeah, for me. Okay, good. All right. I'll bring this up and I'll hand this out in a few minutes. All right, just hold with those. We'll come back. Okay? All right. So a hypothesis is a proposal intended to explain certain observations. Scientific questions are posed in such a way as to either lend support of, we don't say prove, but lend support of, or disprove or refute a hypothesis. So hypotheses are not proven to be true. Each hypothesis, who knew this, is actually 2 competing hypotheses. It can be more, but typically 2, right? The null hypothesis is the hypothesis we assume to be true unless we disprove the other. It's the status quo, okay? And the alternative hypothesis, that's what we're looking to support. We're looking for, is there a difference? Is there a relationship here? Is there something? Yes or no? And if there's not, we've supported the null. And if there is, we've supported our alternative hypothesis, the one for which we are seeking evidence. This carries the burden of proof. This is what we assume to be true unless we can find evidence to the contrary. An easy way, I think, to think about this, or a similar metaphor, is the American jurisprudence system, the adage, innocent until proven guilty, okay? The status quo, the null hypothesis, is that the person is innocent. That's what we assume to be true unless we can find evidence to the contrary. The alternative hypothesis is that we can find evidence to support that, nope, that person is guilty. Then that shifts our paradigm. It changes what we believe to be true. Does that make sense, guys? Are you with me? Kind of, sort of. I'm getting about a 35% yes rate. Okay, I'll take it. All right. Sometimes, you can have multiple alternative hypotheses, in a more elaborate experiment. But we're going to stick with just null or alternative. A lot of the time, hypotheses are tests of relationships, positive or negative. As this goes up, this also goes up. Or as this goes up, this goes down. Or is there a difference between these things? Are they the same or are they different? Is there a relationship between height and weight? Are males different in size than females? Does this management practice of prescribed burning result in increased abundance of this species or whatever? Okay, so that's often the type of hypothesis we use in wildlife management. So examples of questions based on observations and some hypotheses to answer those questions could be something like this. Why are crows black? Well, one hypothesis might be so that owls cannot see them at night, because now we're basing this on another hypothesis that crows and owls don't get along, and that owls will harass crows at night potentially. But if we have evidence to that, okay. Another possibility is that, hey, it helps them absorb solar radiation. They're a big bird. The other birds aren't going to pick on them too much because they're pretty big. So they can afford to be kind of a color that's pretty easy to see, and it helps them stay warm on winter days. Maybe that's a possibility. Okay. Here's another one. Why does Fall Creek Falls State Park get more visitors than Cumberland Mountain State Park? Maybe because it has more facilities, visitors. Maybe because it's bigger. Maybe because it's older. Can you think of some other maybes? Actually, think of some other maybes. Yeah, Robert.
It's cleaner.
Maybe because it's cleaner. It's better kept. Good. Others? Yeah.
It's more easily accessible.
Maybe it's more easily accessible. It's not, but maybe. Yeah, okay, right.
Maybe the sites are different, like maybe there's a bigger waterfall at Fall Creek than Cumberland, and that's how people want to go see it.
Maybe it's got more grandeur associated with it. The tallest waterfall and wherever. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, others? Any others? Good, so you're thinking that way. Okay, so there's several possible hypotheses to explain this phenomenon. Okay. Why do there appear to be more woodpeckers at Obion River Wildlife Management Area that lie between the lakes? Anybody want to take a shot at a hypothesis or two for that? Yes.
I've never been to Land Between the Lakes, but I know Obion River has a lot more older, rotting, dying wood with a lot of insects.
Okay, so maybe because it has more dead wood, that provides more foraging substrate for woodpeckers. Okay, that's one. Any others? Yeah.
Less competition for prey.
Okay, so maybe for whatever reason, anything that they might be competing with, this is not as good a habitat for those other species. Okay. Others? All right. I'd like you to go back to your group. From one of your questions, generate all the hypotheses that you can think of to answer that question. Ready, set, go.
Do we just choose our one question?
We'll just do yours and yours.
Okay. Kind of trees do vultures and vultures. Vultures in trees that are, let's say, shade tolerant for one, so that they can roost out in the sun. Vulture prefer, that one singular vulture. Vultures prefer to roost in older, strong trees that can support more weight. Vultures prefer vulture to roost in trees with
Took all the fun out of that.
more spread out
Or along
I'm trying to be childish.
Because say like a coyote blows something and they can see it better if it's out in the open.
That provide an advantage to scavenging habitat edges, fields, roost with more spread out limbs. That was really good. Vultures prefer to roost in trees with...
Hold up fingers to show me how many hypotheses you have.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
3, 5,
5.
5, 4, 3, 2, 7. Okay, good. Okay, all right. Somebody who we haven't heard from, tell me what your question is and tell me at least a couple of your hypotheses. Who's willing to?
Okay.
Right here.
So our question was, why did the horseflies follow your vehicle?
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
So we come up with, is it the light that's reflected off your vehicle, the vibration, what was the heat? There was something, I don't, what was the other one?
You said vibration, right?
Yeah, vibration,
You said
heat,
heat.
light.
Movement,
And then
detection of
movement,
movement.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
okay,
That's
okay,
what-
cool, excellent, very good, very good. And I'll look forward to hearing. Okay, Jake, you can tell me yours too.
Sure. Mine is why do black bears climb trees?
Yeah, okay, yeah,
Our first one is searching for honey.
okay,
They're scared by a predator.
okay,
That's where they sleep or rest.
okay,
And then another one was just foraging for other food sources.
okay, all right, very good, cool. All right, so good, we're generating these ideas, we'll come back, all right, here we go. So let's go back to crows being black. My hypotheses that I gave were so owls can't see them at night and to absorb solar radiation in winter. So how might we test each of those hypotheses? I don't know, it's just off the top of my head. Maybe you could catch some crows and dye them, dye them some lighter color and monitor the black crows and the light crows at night and see if there's a difference in how they're being harassed by owls somehow, okay? All right, sure. Or equip crows with temperature sensing transmitters and compare their surface temperature during the daytime during the winter and see if there's a significant difference. That doesn't necessarily suggest that, it's because that's the reason they're black, but at least correlates with it, so it gets you in that direction. So, okay, I'm trying to come up with ways to test these hypotheses. See what I'm doing here? See where we're going? All right, so why does Fall Creek Falls State Park get more visitors than Cumberland Mountain? Maybe people like it more, maybe more people know about it, maybe it's closer to more people's homes. How might each of these be tested? Well, the first two hypotheses above, hang on, time out. How might each of these be tested? How might we test the idea that people like Fall Creek Falls more than Cumberland Mountain?
Take a survey.
Okay. Yeah, survey. Yeah, survey folks. And we'll just stop. We could get into a lot more details. But yeah, that's easy. More people know about it. How do we test that? Survey. Same survey. Yeah. So we get into some human use surveys. It's closer to more people's homes. How might we test that?
Also survey.
Census.
A census, a survey, look at a map, a map preferably using geographic information system layers of human population density of different areas, and maybe that GIS data would allow us to analyze and compare. Okay, so those first two hypotheses, that people like it more and more people know about it, beg the question, why? Why would people like it more? Why would more people know about it? So what might be some hypotheses to this question for each of these for each of these two hypotheses? Why might people like it more? And I guess some of you guys in your earlier answers might have addressed it. Because it has cleaner facilities, because it has more grandeur, because it has more facilities. Okay, why might more people know about it if in fact that's the case?
Better social media outlet.
That maybe they're doing a better job with their social media.
Advertisement.
Maybe they're just advertising more.
We've had friends and family go.
More people have gone in the past, which perpetuates, and more people being told about it. Maybe it won an award sometime that got put in, again, that goes to advertising and catalog. Hey, best national state park in Tennessee, or whatever. Okay, all right. So hypotheses, questions can lead to hypotheses, which can often lead to more hypotheses. So science begets more science. All right. So how might each of your hypotheses be tested? And it might be necessary to tweak a hypothesis or two to make it testable. Back to it.
So my idea was to kind of like, at the moment, my brain can't register a way to like experiment with each individual one. My idea would be to like go out, find roosts of vultures, and then kind of like tick what characteristics attribute to each of those things. So like find a roost. Okay, is it a shade tolerant tree? Yes, no. Is it on the edge of a habitat or in a field? Yes, no. What kind of tree is it? Are the limbs spread out? Is it canopy boarded? Yes, no.
pretty much find a patch of vultures and take how many vultures are there at that tree, and then kind of formulate rather what kind of tree it is, where it's at.
Make sure when the driveway is on the park, you just sit there for a second. They only sit for like 5 minutes, and then they'll like freeze down, stop attacking it.
Considering that hypothesis for
Testing out like a different color vehicle.
No, I mean, are we actually speaking to that?
Characters of lunch and treaters and also record are in culture count later to how to aligning characteristics of the trainer. So like, cause we can find like multiple routes that are like, that have both like, that are both like in a field and then also have like much more space in a less dense canopy. But we might find more vultures. Like we might find like 5 trees that are like that. But we might find more vultures at some that have like less space in the limbs or
All
the
right.
canopy.
Let me ask, who
But,
has
like,
at least one answer, one way to test one of your hypotheses? Who's got at least one? Who doesn't have one yet? Everybody's got at least one. Okay. I would like to hear from a group that I haven't heard from yet. What's the question? What's one of your hypotheses, and how are you going to test it? Yes, sir.
So our question is, do beavers prefer what wood they chew on? One of the questions is, does size matter? And a way we could test that is by measuring the trees they're chewing on.
Okay. Okay. The diameter of the trunk that they're chewing on, something like that. Okay. All right. Okay. Another one. Somebody else we haven't heard from. We've got 35 minutes. No hurry.
Okay, we got one. The question that we came up with was, why do deer stop and look at headlights when they're confronted with them? And I just go, one of the things we said is they like the color. And so we could just do different color tests of headlights to see, if that's why they're stopping.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. We're brainstorming. Okay. Very good. I have something here. We're not going to be here the whole time. This is an essay written by Martin Schwartz from the Department of Microbiology at UVA Health System at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And he wrote this a while back. This was in, I don't know this way. But the title of it is The Importance of Stupidity in Scientific Research. And it's that long. It's one page. So I would like for you to read it. Thank you very much. And I'd like for you to recognize that by nature, when we're asking questions and generating hypotheses, we are admitting our stupidity. We're looking for questions because we don't know. We don't know the answers. Too often we allow our pride and hubris to get in the way of just descending into totally admitting I am ignorant, right? And I want to know the answers to questions that other people they know the answers to, but I don't make any assumptions. So I would encourage you, read this article, and as you are observing nature and going to the literature and seeing what other people have found out about what you're thinking about, just cut yourself some slack and realize, yeah, we don't know everything. I don't know everything. I'm ignorant. I'm stupid about this stuff, and that's okay. That should hopefully free you up to come up with whatever questions are intriguing to you that you might try to pursue this semester and in future years. That is all I have. Dr. Gruba, do you have anything else to add?
I'd like to make one other point that, based on some of the things that you've been saying here, have you ever heard someone say, that's only a theory? Ever heard someone say that? Okay. Well, does that make any sense to you now? It does make sense? It sure as hell doesn't to me. Why would people, what is a theory, once again?
A group of hypotheses that have been reproduced and experimented over time to form a theory.
To use what Dr. Coward said, it's what we got. It's the closest possible thing to truth that we have. We don't have scientific proof. So the closest thing to it is a theory. So when people say it's only a theory, that's really a stupid thing to say. It's not only. Now, or here's another one. Have you heard someone say this? Well, let's see, my tires are flat. I have a theory that. No, you don't. What do you have?
Idea.
You have a hypothesis.
That's right.
Okay.
So people should be saying that's only a hypothesis.
Right. Yeah. By the time you get to a theory level, what are some of the theories in science? Biology. What are some of the big theories? Anybody know? I can think of three right offhand. I see them as three great pillars upon which the stone of biology stands. And if either one of those three pillars is pulled out, the stone shall fall. What are those three theories?
Evolution.
Theory of evolution is one. Any others? There are two others that are kind of important.
Climate change?
Say what?
Climate change?
No, that's a hypothesis.
Gravity?
That's actually a wonderful theory. It's actually they knocked out enough to a law, but I'm thinking of biological theory.
Yeah, it's physical theory.
Purpose, the reason that animals and creatures do things.
It's not one. The other theories are, have you ever heard there's a theory based on the fact that all living things are made of living cells, and living cells come from living cells? Anybody know what that theory is? That cells come from living cells, and all living things are made of cells. The cell theory. Okay. And the third one is the theory of inheritance. Okay. That a genetic code is passed from generation to generation. Those three things, everything else you do in science, in biology anyway, is based on those three theories. So those are the three great theories of biology. Just to let you know what they are. There's lots of other theories out there too.
When my wife and I were dating a couple hundred years ago, we were talking. I was expounding upon my appreciation for the theory of evolution, of evolution, and she said, "Well, I mean, it's a fine theory," and my head nearly exploded. Yeah. Married for nearly 30 years now, so.
I do want to make that point, because we hear it all the time. People do either that it's only a theory or I have a theory.
Yeah.
Either one of those.
Just they mean hypothesis. Yeah, they mean hypothesis.